What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you my top 5 upcoming games of 2022, because I wouldn't even be a gaming YouTuber if I didn't make this video, now would I? 2022 is set to be a very big year for games though, simply because a lot of the delays and things that we've seen over the past couple years seem to have culminated in 2022, especially the first few months, so we are very likely to see just a ton of great games being released this coming year, and these following 5 are just the 5 in particular that I am excited for. Now, this is just a list of my personal preferences. This is not meant to be the best of the best upcoming games, because frankly, until those games come out and people have a chance to play them, there's no honest way of knowing that. But with no further ado, let's jump right into the video here, and number 1 on the list is actually The Waylanders. So The Waylanders has been sitting in early access for quite some time. However, it is set to release on February 2nd, I believe, and if you've ever played Dragon Age Origins, at least structurally speaking, you'll probably enjoy this game, as it sees a lot of the same game mechanics in place, and while I do think the art style isn't going to be everybody's cup of tea, if you're a fan of deeper RPGs with tactical combat, then I think The Waylanders is definitely going to be up your alley as well. And if you want more detailed information about the title, I will try to post a link down below to a checkout video I made for it, where I talk about the various races that are going to be inhabiting the world, some of the mechanics, etc. And then next up on our list, we have Elex 2. This will be launching on March 1st, actually. And this one actually flew under my radar for quite some time, but recently I actually went and did a review for the original Elex, as that was a highly requested review from my audience, and after playing that game I can definitely see why. There's a lot to say about Elex, but ultimately I enjoyed the experience very much. You can of course check out my review if you want my full thoughts on the original Elex. As a result of enjoying that so much, Elex 2 has me very interested in that upcoming title, and in fact it's kind of hard to talk about Elex 2 as it is a direct sequel to the original Elex, and thus you kind of have to spoil a lot of the original Elex in order to talk about Elex 2, so here we are. Nonetheless, Elex 2 is an open-world RPG from the developer Piranha Bytes, who is known for a certain style of RPG, and while you do play as a set protagonist, at least in Elex, you were able to play a large variety of ways and you could really build that set protagonist the way you wanted to, and it was a ton of fun. And now I'm looking forward to Elex 2. Third on our list, we have Stalker 2, set to release in April. This game was in the news recently, or at least the gaming news, for some controversies surrounding NFTs that were ultimately reversed, and now those will no longer be in the game, despite their initial interest in doing so. But Stalker 2, of course, is the sequel to the sort of cult classic Stalker, as well as some of the other games that went along in the Stalker franchise. But Stalker is one of the many sort of sci-fi post-apocalypse games that you kind of have seen, has very similar vibes to Fallout, etc. But if you've played the original Stalker, you know that that game still manages to stand out, obviously, and Stalker 2 is set to be one of the bigger releases of 2022, actually. And I personally am a big fan of the anomalies, which are just things your stalker can run into that will do various things like rip you to shreds, hence the sci-fi part of the game. And I guess more than anything, I'm just interested in seeing how they continue this franchise. And that brings us to the 4th one on the list, and this is a narrative-driven RPG called Vampire the Masquerade Swan Song. So if you follow my channel a decent bit, you'll probably know that I'm a big fan of Vampire the Masquerade, and Swan Song is set to release in, I believe it is May. In this title, you'll be taking on the role of one of 3 vampires, each of which are fairly old, which is unique to the setting. Typically, when you play these games, you play as a newer vampire, whereas in this instance, of the 3 characters you can play, each and every one of them is at least over 100 years old. And you'll alternate between playing each of them as you solve a sort of mystery, of course. But the main focus is on the story, however you will be able to do things like upgrade your disciplines, etc., and kind of guide each of those characters in the way you want them to go as you explore the narrative of this game. And I gotta be honest, I don't think it's going to be up everybody's alley. However, I am a huge fan of Vampire the Masquerade, so I'm looking forward to it quite a bit. And then last on this list, we have Starfield. So, like a lot of people, I'm just interested in seeing Bethesda Game Studios' new IP, especially since I heard the news that this particular instance is actually going to be more heavily focused on the RPG elements that were kind of stripped away in an entry like Skyrim. Because while Skyrim is a very fun and replayable game, ultimately a lot of the RPG elements from the previous titles have been stripped away up to that point. So I'm very curious to see if Bethesda can actually pull off a deeper RPG these days, which is why I'm looking forward to checking out Starfield when it arrives in November. Now, before we wrap up, I will give an honorable mention to Elden Ring before people mention it in the comments 400 times. I will probably be playing it when it releases on, I believe it's February 25th. However, it is just not a title that I personally am excited about as much as a great many other people are. However, it does look like it's shaping up to be a pretty solid game, so who knows, maybe it'll release and I'll get into it and it'll be amazing. But as it stands, I'm not looking forward to that one specifically as much as other titles on this list. There you go, guys. The top games of 2022 that I am looking forward to, which, barring any further delays, will hopefully actually release. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. I typically review games after getting 100% on them, which includes more than achievements. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you for watching. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.